William takes on the responsibilities for the Duchy of Cornwall, continue to inspire and lead our national conversations, helping to bring the march.
For years, Prince William embodied composure, the picture of royal steadiness, the heir apparent who never faltered in public. But this week, for the first time in his adult life, the mask slipped. Sitting across from veteran broadcaster Emily Maitlis during a special BBC One interview that aired on Thursday night, the Prince of Wales spoke in measured tones, calm, candid, and visibly exhausted. "I've learned," he began softly, "that strength and silence aren't always the same thing. Of finest." It was meant to be a reflective discussion on his environmental projects and his new leadership role. But what unfolded became something far more personal, a rare glimpse into the private toll of royal life. William confirmed what palace watchers had whispered for months. King Charles III has formally withdrawn from all public and ceremonial duties due to ongoing health complications, and the Crown's daily responsibilities have been officially transferred to the Prince and Princess of Wales. Yet it was not the constitutional shift that made headlines. It was William's voice shaking slightly as he admitted, for the first time, that he himself has been struggling with serious health challenges. "The past 2 years," he said, "have been the hardest of my life. My father's condition, Catherine's illness, and the constant need to keep the country reassured. I won't lie, it's taken its toll." He went on to describe a personal battle that few could have imagined behind his poised demeanor: chronic insomnia, iron deficiency, and worsening migraines that had begun to affect his vision. At one point, the interviewer asked how he managed to continue public duties under such strain. William smiled faintly. "You don't stop," he said. "You just learn how to walk while carrying the weight." The palace had known the truth for months. Behind closed doors, aides had quietly adjusted William's schedule, canceling late-night receptions and limiting overseas travel. But it wasn't until the broadcast aired that the nation understood how deeply the past 2 years had worn on its future king. Social media lit up instantly. "Finally, he speaks like one of us," one viewer wrote on X. "He looks so tired and so real," another commented. For a family built on discretion, the rawness of the moment was almost revolutionary. It wasn't only a confession, it was a revelation. William, the man raised in the shadow of grief, trained for composure, disciplined for duty, was admitting he was not invincible. The BBC studio itself seemed to fall silent when Maitlis asked the question that no royal correspondent had dared to phrase so directly. "Do you think your father's withdrawal marks the beginning of a new reign?" William paused for a long moment, his gaze steady but distant. "I think it marks a moment of responsibility," he replied. "My father has earned his rest, and I have to earn the trust he's leaving in my hands." Oh. Earlier that morning, Buckingham Palace released a carefully worded statement confirming that King Charles would step back indefinitely from all ceremonial engagements and state appearances, citing the advice of His Majesty's physicians. The statement added that the Prince and Princess of Wales will assume primary responsibility for representing the Crown both domestically and abroad. It was the clearest sign yet that Britain's monarchy was entering an era of transition, not abrupt or tragic, but deliberate, peaceful, and deeply symbolic. The document, signed by the king himself, concluded with a single line that spoke volumes. In their stead, their Royal Highnesses William and Catherine will carry forward the duties of the realm together, as they have always done. Obi. Sources close to Kensington Palace revealed that the couple had been privately preparing for this handover for nearly a year, working closely with senior courtiers and the Archbishop of Canterbury. Yet the strain had been immense. Between Catherine's recovery from her undisclosed illness, the king's worsening health, and the relentless public expectation for stability, the load had become more than symbolic. It was physical. One longtime aide described it candidly. "The prince doesn't sleep much. He reads until dawn. He's balancing government briefings, family duties, and constant worry about the king. No one can carry that forever." In the BBC interview, William did not deny it. Instead, he acknowledged almost with relief that the image of royal perfection was unsustainable. "There are days I wake up and don't feel ready to face anyone," he said. "But duty doesn't wait for perfect health." Oh. For royal historians, the evening marked the unofficial beginning of what some are already calling the Regency of Hearts, a phase in which William and Catherine act not merely as stand-ins for the king, but as the moral and emotional center of a monarchy redefining itself under pressure. The last time a British heir spoke this openly about physical or mental exhaustion, one commentator noted, was never. The BBC's broadcast ended not with grandeur, but with a close-up. William lowering his head slightly, exhaling as if releasing years of unspoken tension. The final words of the program lingered long after the credits rolled. I'm learning that leadership isn't just about standing tall. Sometimes, it's about admitting when you need to sit down. In a single interview, Britain's future king dismantled centuries of silence and replaced it with something more powerful: honesty. And in that honesty, the nation saw not weakness, but the truest form of strength. The morning after Prince William's historic interview aired on BBC One, Britain awoke with a startling sense of clarity and a flood of emotional reaction. From London to Leicester, the front pages told a story not of scandal, but of vulnerability. The headlines were unanimous. William speaks and Britain listens. The future king reveals his struggle, duty, burden, and a new monarchy in motion. But beyond the headlines, it was the British public, long accustomed to royal reserve, who found themselves unexpectedly moved. Viewers took to X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram in droves, sharing clips of the interview's most intimate moments. One post captioned, "He bleeds like us, he breaks like us, and still he stands," garnered over 1.5 million views in under 12 hours. The hashtag number William and Catherine surged globally, trending not just in the UK, but across Canada, Australia, and even Japan, a symbol of the global resonance of the prince's vulnerability. "It's the first time I cried during a royal interview," said Dame Margaret Coulson, a royal historian. Because for once, it wasn't about legacy, it was about humanity. While the BBC interview may have appeared spontaneous, insiders confirmed that it was months in the making. According to a high-ranking source within Kensington Palace, the Royal Communications Office began quietly preparing the public for a shift in perception well before the broadcast. Leaks about the king's declining attendance, carefully photographed solo appearances by Catherine, and increased engagement from the Waleses were all part of what one aide called a dignified handover strategy. "The monarchy doesn't transition with headlines," the source said. "It transitions with mood, Albrax." And the mood, for once, was unified. Behind the scenes, William and Catherine had already begun assuming duties previously reserved for the monarch. From weekly security briefings to audiences with Commonwealth leaders, the couple's workload had nearly doubled since the king's last public appearance 2 months ago. Yet no public acknowledgement had been made until now. In the BBC special, William finally gave the shift its name. "We are not replacing my father. We are extending his legacy." That phrasing, carefully chosen, allowed for both respect and revolution, and acknowledgement that the monarchy was entering a new era without breaking from the past. While William's confession commanded attention, many observers noted that the most stabilizing presence in this transition has been Catherine, Princess of Wales. Though absent from the interview itself, her presence loomed large throughout the broadcast, in archival footage, in soft references from William, and most importantly, in the public's mind. For the past 6 months, Catherine has been described as the invisible anchor of the monarchy. Despite recovering from a mysterious illness that sidelined her briefly from royal life, she returned with renewed intensity, attending solo engagements, meeting youth delegations, and stepping in for Charles at military ceremonies. Royal biographer Helena Carter described it best. "She is not just stepping into a role. She is reshaping it in her image with restraint, empathy, and astonishing stamina." In fact, palace insiders revealed that it was Catherine who suggested the BBC interview as a way to both humanize the monarchy and protect the king's privacy. It was her idea, too, that William speak openly about his health, not to garner sympathy, but to model transparency in an age of scrutiny. "If we ask the country to walk with us," she reportedly told staff, "we must show them where we are wounded." That single sentence has now become something of a rallying cry within the palace, a reminder that modern royalty cannot thrive on mystery alone. The monarchy's current transition is unprecedented, not just in timing, but in tone. Previous handovers of royal power, whether after the deaths of monarchs or during periods of abdication, were often shrouded in mourning or constitutional rigidity. But this transition, shaped by prolonged illness, emotional fatigue, and deliberate transparency, has created a unique emotional atmosphere. For the first time, Britons are not merely witnessing a change in figureheads, they are being invited into the emotional weight of it. And that invitation is building trust. Recent polling conducted by YouGov after the interview showed a remarkable spike in approval ratings for both William and Catherine. A staggering 87% of respondents said they felt more connected to the royal couple, and 78% said they believed the pair were ready to lead the monarchy into a new generation. Only 42% expressed the same sentiment about Camilla, the Queen Consort, whose absence during recent transitions has drawn quiet speculation. Notably, Camilla has not issued a public statement since the palace's announcement regarding King Charles's step back. Her silence has been interpreted by many as either strategic or strained. Technically, King Charles III remains monarch. There has been no formal abdication, nor is one expected. Yet, in every way that matters, public duties, constitutional presence, diplomatic engagements, the Prince and Princess of Wales are now the faces of the crown. But the absence of a coronation date raises a key question. How long can a monarchy function in a state of unspoken regency? The Archbishop of Canterbury, when asked during a press briefing, offered only a cryptic reply: "The crown is not a crown of gold, it is a burden of time, and time in this case is not yet finished." That ambiguity has done little to stop speculation. Rumors are already swirling of a spring 2026 coronation ceremony, meant not as a crowning, but as a renewal of oath by William and Catherine, a new form of symbolic investiture designed for a modern monarchy. Whether or not such an event is confirmed, one thing is clear: Britain is no longer wondering if William and Catherine will lead. They already are. Before Prince William ever spoke publicly about his own health or the burden of succession, the woman beside him had already begun shouldering the weight in silence. In March of this year, when whispers first emerged about Catherine's unexpected absence from the street, David's Day Parade, an event she never missed, the official explanation from Kensington Palace was private medical leave. What followed was a nationwide wave of concern. For nearly 4 weeks, no photographs emerged, no public sightings. The Princess of Wales, typically the most visible and consistent royal presence, had vanished. But while the tabloids speculated everything from exhaustion to autoimmune illness, those close to the palace knew the truth was more complex. Catherine had suffered a stress-related immune collapse, a condition exacerbated by long-term sleep deprivation, grief over the king's illness, and her relentless commitment to public service. "She simply burned out," said one former palace physician. And because she's Catherine, she didn't want anyone to worry, not even her husband. Okay, time. It was only later, long after she reappeared, radiant and composed at the Chelsea Flower Show, that the full weight of her illness became clear. A private source revealed that Catherine endured weekly steroid treatments, acute muscle fatigue, and a form of chronic vertigo that affected her balance during walkabouts. Yet she returned. Not with fanfare or grand statements, but with purpose. On May 11th, she made her first major public reappearance at the Royal Marsden Cancer Centre, a location close to her heart. Dressed in pale blue, the color of awareness for chronic illness, she met with pediatric patients, calmly listening to their stories and holding their hands with unshakable stillness. What the cameras didn't capture was the team of medical aides just out of frame, monitoring her vitals discreetly. It was her first full day back on royal duty. And it was a risk. She told us, "If I'm going to serve children in pain, I must do so when I've felt pain myself," recalled a nurse at the center. That's the kind of queen she will be. Since then, every engagement has been more than ceremonial. Catherine has led solo initiatives on mental health in schools, quietly expanded the baby bank initiative started in 2022, and assumed symbolic leadership over Her Majesty's Youth Trust, a position previously held by Queen Elizabeth II. For many, these were not just public appearances, they were statements of survival, each one crafted to show the British public that she was not only healing, but leading. Insiders now confirm that the palace deliberately staggered Catherine's return ahead of William's BBC interview. The plan, developed in coordination with senior advisors and the king's private secretary, was to showcase stability before revealing vulnerability. Catherine's reemergence wasn't just about her, said a former royal aide. It was about preparing the public to see William not as the boy who lost his mother, but as the man who was now becoming the father of a nation. Behind closed doors, Catherine has also become an unofficial counselor to Charles, especially as his health limits his ability to attend key functions. Several confidential meetings were held between her and the Archbishop of Canterbury regarding future ceremonial roles. Her attention to liturgical detail and concern for public accessibility reportedly impressed church officials. She asked questions only the Queen used to ask, one bishop said. That tells you who's really guiding this transition. Notably absent from Catherine's recovery and return has been any visible support from Queen Camilla. While official statements from Clarence House praised Catherine's grace and resilience, sources inside Buckingham Palace confirm that Camilla has largely distanced herself from the transition. During the royal ascot in June, royal watchers noticed that Catherine and Camilla were seated at opposite ends of the royal box, a subtle but telling sign. Their last joint engagement was nearly 6 months ago. And Camilla's noticeable absence during William's BBC interview, when even Princess Anne provided a brief statement of support, has sparked questions. Some insiders suggest tension over the Queen Mother's tiaras, several of which were quietly reassigned to Catherine's future use without Camilla's direct involvement. Camilla feels sidelined, said one courtier. She was queen consort, and now she's watching the next queen take center stage. The tension reached a visible climax during the Japanese state visit, where Empress Mako's open admiration for Catherine and her fascination with the lover's knot tiara, once worn by Princess Diana, visibly unsettled Camilla. It was a rare moment where history, grief, and legacy all collided. Despite the complexities within the royal household, the public's view of Catherine has never been stronger. A recent poll by Ipsos Mori revealed that 91% of Britons trust Catherine to act in the best interest of the country, a number previously held only by Queen Elizabeth II. For women across the UK, Catherine has become a symbol of resilience, not just as a royal figure, but as a working mother, a wife caring for a sick husband, and a woman navigating illness under intense scrutiny. I saw myself in her, one viewer wrote under a clip of her visit to a children's hospice. We hide so much pain to be strong for others. And yet, she still shows up. Catherine's quiet fortitude, her ability to suffer with dignity, return with grace, and lead with empathy is no longer just admired. It is now seen as essential to the monarchy's survival. As one former lady-in-waiting put it, she has become the crown's most trusted jewel, not because she wears it, but because she's proven she can bear its weight. The British monarchy has never made power transfers obvious, but those who know how to read the palace's silences heard it loud and clear. On a cloudy Thursday morning, a confidential royal document, signed by the King's private secretary and witnessed by two senior Church of England officials, was quietly delivered to Lambeth Palace. The content: formal authorization for the Prince and Princess of Wales to assume primary representational duties of the crown. Though King Charles remains monarch in title, this was the moment Britain entered its new royal era with William and Catherine at the helm. But even more telling than the ink on that parchment was the person who personally walked it into the Archbishop's chambers, Princess Anne. When Anne moves, one royal insider noted, something serious is happening. As the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, Anne has long been seen as the monarchy's most dutiful workhorse and its moral compass. She rarely speaks publicly, but her gestures carry meaning. In this case, her involvement wasn't just ceremonial. Sources close to the palace confirm it was Anne who helped guide the transition behind the scenes. She reportedly advised William on protocols used during Queen Elizabeth's twilight years, helping the couple prepare for soft leadership without overstepping Charles. Her subtle but deliberate public alignment with Catherine, from mirrored coat colors to standing beside her during high-profile events, has not gone unnoticed. Anne has chosen her side, said one palace aide, and it's not with Camilla. Following Anne's delivery of the document, the Archbishop of Canterbury issued a carefully worded statement calling William and Catherine divinely guided and duty-bound in the tradition of steadfast heirs before them. It was as close to spiritual anointment as the modern monarchy permits outside a coronation. Meanwhile, the public has responded with warmth and confidence. Social media trended for 2 days under number New Era Royals and number Crown in Good Hands. A national broadcast featuring the couple's highlights from royal tours to Catherine's children's charities aired across BBC One and ITV, drawing nearly 10 million viewers. For now, King Charles remains a sovereign in retreat, observing from Sandringham. But the country and the crown have already moved on. In a monarchy built on visibility, disappearance speaks volumes. While William and Catherine now front royal engagements across Britain and the Commonwealth, Queen Camilla has not been seen in public for over 3 weeks, an absence that grows louder with each passing day. Palace insiders insist she is taking personal time, retreating to Raymil House, her private residence in Wiltshire. But sources close to the situation say it's more than rest. It's strategic withdrawal. Not her idea, but the palace's. And the public? They've noticed. And they've moved on. Camilla was once the woman who refused to fade, surviving decades of scandal, criticism, and suspicion, only to ascend alongside Charles in a carefully managed PR campaign. But now, as the monarch recedes due to ill health, Camilla's role has shrunk, not in accordance with protocol, but with popularity. At a recent state dinner held for the Crown Prince of Kuwait, a major diplomatic affair, it was Catherine, not Camilla, who hosted the guest of honor alongside William. And when the Archbishop of Canterbury issued a blessing over the Wales family last week, Camilla's name was absent entirely. She's not just stepping back, noted a senior royal correspondent. She's being edited out. Some insiders believe the recent shift was catalyzed by a single, symbolic moment. Catherine wearing the lover's knot tiara famously associated with Princess Diana during the Japanese state banquet. It wasn't merely an accessory. It was a declaration of lineage, emotion, and legacy. Queen Empress Mako of Japan, clearly moved by the tiara, asked Catherine for the full history of the piece. As Catherine graciously recounted its origin under Queen Mary, then Queen Elizabeth II, then Diana. The room's attention drifted away from Camilla entirely. Camilla's face froze. One guest later recounted. It was as though Diana had walked into the room. That moment, caught on several viral clips online, ignited a new wave of commentary. "The Queen We Choose" began trending. It was a rare royal night where Camilla was physically present but symbolically erased. Senior courtiers, long protective of royal reputation above personal emotion, have reportedly reached a quiet consensus. The future of the monarchy cannot afford to be divided. And in the public imagination, Camilla remains a divisive figure, the specter of a scandal that never quite faded. Rather than risk a visible tug-of-war between two queens, the decision was made. Elevate one, dignify the other with silence. She retains her title, yes, but increasingly, that's all she retains. Camilla has reportedly expressed frustration privately, especially at the symbolism-heavy nature of Catherine's appearances. At one point, she allegedly confronted aides about the tiara schedule, asking whether we're trying to crown her already. But those aides, loyal now to William's court, merely smiled. They know what Camilla does too. You can't fight the tide once it's turned. And Catherine? She hasn't said a word about the changes. She doesn't need to. Her presence, quiet, regal, emotionally intelligent, now occupies the space once fought over by others. Where Camilla once positioned herself as the supportive spouse, Catherine has risen beyond that. She is the future. She is the crown. And for the first time, it's not just the press saying so, it's the palace itself. The rehearsal was never meant to be public, but the images leaked not by accident, but by design. Last Friday, as Westminster Abbey's great doors swung open under the hush of twilight, a small but unmistakable procession took place. William in full ceremonial dress, Catherine beside him in sapphire blue, flanked by their 3 children. No Charles, no Camilla, and no doubt left in anyone's mind. The torch had passed. Though no official coronation has been scheduled, what unfolded was a living portrait of the future. William, pale but composed, clasped the ceremonial staff once held by his father. Catherine, radiant but solemn, wore the Queen Mother's brooch, a subtle signal that her new role was not assumed lightly. An organist played a quiet rendition of Jerusalem. A small group of clergy, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, offered blessings not for a reigning king, but for a family entering uncharted waters with grace, duty, and unimaginable emotional weight. The public caught wind when a single photo surfaced, shared anonymously by someone inside. Within hours, hashtags trended. Number Windsor Reimagined. Number Catherine Our Queen. Number The People's Prince. That same evening, an exclusive televised interview aired on BBC One's Panorama The Next Sovereign, where Prince William spoke candidly for the first time about his health. His words were calm, but the revelation shook the nation. There were days I woke up unsure if I could meet the mirror, not because I was ashamed, but because I felt empty. Sleep eluded me for months. My blood levels dropped. My hair, well, you've seen what it's become. He smiled, gently brushing back his thinning fringe. Then came the hardest part. I hid my headaches. I powered through, but my body was telling me to stop. I didn't. Until Catherine fell ill. This was not just a royal stepping into power, it was a human being unveiling the cost of duty. The price of a crown before it is even worn. The camera panned to Catherine, watching quietly from backstage. Her hand rested over her heart. It is impossible to separate William's emotional revelation from Catherine's quiet strength. As he faltered, she steadied. As the press speculated, she smiled. As the monarchy tilted, she anchored. Those close to her describe a woman transformed not by ambition, but by clarity of purpose. She's not trying to be Diana, said one aide. She's trying to honor her and outlast Camilla. Indeed, every public appearance of late, from her moment with the children at the Catholic chapel, to her hosting of Empress Mako, to her guiding hand during William's BBC interview, has been deliberate, dignified, and deeply personal. The tiara she chose, the gestures she made, the words she avoided all form part of a new royal language, one built not on grandeur, but on empathy. In contrast, Camilla's absence is no longer a surprise, it's an expectation. Her team, once quick to deny or distract, has gone quiet. She was not mentioned in William's interview. She was not seen at the Abbey. Even the palace's website shifted her biography further down the page last week, beneath that of Princess Anne. One insider confirmed. There are no current plans for Camilla to return to frontline duties. No timeline, no statement, nothing. The silence, once infuriating to her, has now become her shelter. In a monarchy that lives through narrative, Camilla's story is no longer being told. There may not be a crown yet on William's head or Catherine's brow, but the public understands what's happening. Their rise is not born of ambition, but necessity. The king has stepped back, the queen consort has disappeared, and the people have already chosen their sovereigns. In shops and schools, in pubs and newspapers, the questions are no longer if or when. They are how soon, how ready, and how long can they last? But one thing is certain, the story of the monarchy is no longer about who wears the crown. It's about who carries the weight of it and makes us proud while doing so. And in this new reign of empathy, humility, and truth, William and Catherine aren't just heirs. They are already our king and queen in spirit.